In Formula 1, no engine comes close to matching the success of this 3-liter V8, which introduced in 1967 and racked up 155 Formula 1 victories over a period of 16 years and powered 12 drivers' titles and 10 constructors' titles. The DFV even powered 2 24-hour of Le Mans victories in 1975 and 1980. The engine was so good it became critical to the success of the sport. When Duckworth was commissioned to design the engine in 1966, he made some bold decisions. One of those, after discussions with Colin Chapman at Lotus, was to design the engine as a stressed member forming part of the chassis and supporting the rear transaxle gearbox. It would be constructed as a plug-and-play unit to avoid failures from ancillaries fitted by other parties. The DFV, developed in 1967 for Colin Chapman's team Lotus, was sponsored and funded by major American automotive manufacturer Ford. In drawings, the Ford Cosworth F1 engine appears to be complex, but the fact is that it's really beautifully straightforward and simple. It's a highly refined but not overly sophisticated direct descendant of the tradition, which was originated by Peugeot just before World War I. Still, it's one of the most efficient engines ever to run on pump gas. DFV stands for double 4-valve because the flat-plane crank effectively gives the same configuration and firing order of two 4-cylinder 16-valve engines. The 4 camshafts were gear-driven from the front of the engine, it had dry sump lubrication and 3 oil pumps featured, 2 to scavenge oil from the sump and 1 to pressurize the oil to a high 85 psi. The first version produced 405 horsepower at 9000 rpm, with the rev limit set at 9500 rpm. By the end of its career, the DFV F1 engine was produced 500 horsepower. The first car to run with a DFV and designed around it was the 1967 Lotus 49. The 49 was based on a fully stressed monocoque aluminium tub. The DFV was bolted to the firewall and the engine and transmission were bolted directly to it. Outing was the first real track test of the F1 Lotus Ford and it yielded some valuable information. The car's weight distribution needed some rehashing. The throttle linkage operated sluggishly. The useful torque range of 6500 to 9000 rpm was narrow for any course, which includes slow bends. On some points of the Dutch circuit revs dropped below 6500, then the power would surge on the virage and get the car sideways. The DFV's last F1 race came in 1985 and even in the early turbo years it had remained competitive. It was and still is a remarkable design that stood the test of time and it continues to this day in historic racing supported by some ace specialist engine builders. Will there ever be another engine quite as groundbreaking? It's unlikely.